ready for a deep dive into Jules Verne.
Always up for some Verne.
But this time, we're leaving the Nautilus and the hot air balloons behind.
Really?
Yeah, we're going deeper into the mythology woven through his adventures.
Huh, interesting. I always thought of Verne as, the science fiction guy. But mythology, tell me more.
Well, thankfully, we've got Michel Serres' book, Jouvences, to guide us. He's like the ultimate Verne decoder ring.
Okay, so Serres is going to be our Sherpa through the world of Verne and myth. I like her.
Exactly. And one of the first things that pops out is this thing with the number 3, right? 3 voyages, 3 characters. It's everywhere in Verne, by all the 3s.
Right. Like, it's almost like he couldn't write a story without a set of 3 in there somewhere. Well, Serres says it's all about journeys. Like, think about it. The literal voyages Verne's characters take, but also those internal journeys, the journeys of self-discovery. They all have these 3 levels.
Okay, so like Dante's Inferno, right?
Yeah.
With its 3 levels of hell.
Yeah.
Or even like a cathedral. You've got the nave, the choir, the sanctuary. It's like a map for the soul's journey.
You got it. It's like a universal structure for understanding these journeys, these transformations.
But wait, Verne flips the script sometimes, doesn't he?
He does, like with the Black Indies and Coal City.
Oh, good one.
Serres points out that Verne calls it an inverted world. Instead of ascending to some sacred space, they're descending, right? Down into the mines.
So he's saying the divine, the sacred, it's not just up in the heavens. It can be hidden in the depths too.
Boom. Exactly. It's like Verne is challenging those traditional ideas of what a sacred journey should look like.
I like it. It's like he's saying, look, there are many paths up the mountain, but hold on, this whole inversion thing, that goes way deeper in his work, right? It's not just about turning locations upside down.
You're getting it. It's about how Verne messes with our perception of reality itself. Mirrors, dualities, inversions. He uses them to blur the lines between real and illusion, knowledge and ignorance. Like, what do we really know anyway?
Whoa. Okay, so we're not just talking about fun adventure stories here. He's making us think.
Right. You're along for the ride, but he's also making you work a little bit. And this is where it gets really cool. Serres sees this link between Verne and the Faust legend.
Hold on, Faust. As in the guy who sells his soul to the devil for knowledge? What does that have to do with Jules Verne?
Okay, so think about it this way. In both Faust and Verne, you have this drive to achieve something extraordinary, to gain ultimate knowledge, to have these incredible experiences. But then reality sets in, right? Human limitations. They always get in the way.
So you're saying that even with all these fantastical adventures, Verne is grounding his stories in the reality of what it means to be human, that we're always going to be limited, always striving for more.
Exactly. We're always reaching for something just beyond our grasp.
That's deep, man.
And that leads us to another cool point. Fragmented identities. Serres even goes as far as to say that Verne had a sort of literary Oedipus complex.
Whoa, Oedipus. Like Greek tragedy Oedipus. That's a bit intense, isn't it?
Okay, not literally, of course. Think of it like this. We all have different sides to ourselves, right? The friend, the sibling, the worker. Verne's characters, they embody these shifting roles, but in these really extreme ways.
So it's about finding your identity, your place in the world, except the world keeps throwing these crazy curveballs at you.
Exactly. And that journey, that struggle for wholeness, it's never simple. It's messy. Think about Michel Strogoff and Michael Strogoff.
Oh, good one. He's got a serious case of the fragmented identity.
For sure. He's juggling all these roles, father figure, brother, even this symbolic son to Nadia, and it's all happening while he's on this insane journey across Russia.
It's like his sense of self is as fragmented as the messages he's carrying. Man, I'm seeing Verne in a whole new light here. It's like he snuck in a whole philosophy course under the guise of these adventure stories.
He totally did. And those journeys, those quests for wholeness, they're never straightforward. They often reflect the cyclical nature of myths. Like, think about the classic hero's journey. They go on this grand adventure, face all these trials and tribulations, but they always return home, transformed by the experience.
Speaking of journeys, what about this changed waters thing? Sounds like a title straight out of Verne himself. What's he getting at with this recurring theme?
Well, think of the changed waters as this metaphor, right? For those big shifts in perspective, like a death and rebirth kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, like a near-death experience where people come back changed. But how does Verne actually work this into his stories?
Water, like H2O, right? It becomes this super potent symbol of a transformation. Take the Chancellor, for example, that scene with the pie crate. Remember that?
Oh man, how could I forget that? Talk about a ticking time bomb. I thought for sure that ship was toast.
Right. But instead of destroying them, it brings about their deliverance. It's like this totally unexpected twist. Verne showing us that even something that seems destructive can actually be transformative.
Man, that Picret scene, that was a wild ride. Like, he's saying even destruction can be a kind of rebirth. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it that way.
Totally. And Verne was a master at that, weaving together these seemingly totally random elements, but they build this richer meaning. And speaking of, this brings us to a crucial point about how Serres sees Verne's characters. He says they're not just these individuals making choices, but like parts of a bigger system, almost like variables in an equation driven by forces beyond their control.
Okay, I'm going to need an example on that one. Sounds a bit too much like my high school physics class.
Fair enough. Let's stick with the Chancellor then. Serres says that everything those characters do, every decision they make, even just struggling to survive, can be seen as reactions to the ship, to the sea itself, Like, the environment is dictating their choices.
So they're not just battling the elements, they're like becoming part of this bigger system. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it makes you see character motivation in a whole new way, right? It's not always about free will, Sometimes it's about those larger forces shaping our destinies.
It's kind of humbling,
Yeah.
Like we think we're in control, but really we're all just along for the ride.
Right.
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? Verne's characters, they show incredible resilience. Like they're always overcoming the odds.
Absolutely. They're always adapting, learning, finding new ways to navigate those challenges. And it's a good message for us, right? Even amidst chaos, we can still make choices, shape our own path.
It's like he's saying life's a game, but you can still choose how you play it. I like that. But what's interesting? We've talked a lot about journeys, about change, about these hidden forces shaping our lives. But there's this other element in Verne that I think ties into all of this. This idea of hunger.
Hunger. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What kind of hunger are we talking about here?
Well, it's not just about food, right? Although food plays a big part in a lot of Verne's stories.
Yeah.
But it's more like this. Deeper hunger for knowledge, for experience, for meaning.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. It's like those scenes where his characters are, stranded on a deserted island or lost in the jungle, right? They're starving, but it becomes about more than just survival. It's like this primal need for something more.
Exactly. And that's where Serres comes in with this whole concept of the feast in Verne's work.
A feast, huh? Okay, now you're just messing with me.
No, seriously. Serres argues that Verne uses this idea of a feast, of abundance, of scarcity, of consuming and being consumed to talk about these bigger themes, knowledge, desire, the consequences of our actions.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So it's not just about literal food, but this deeper hunger for, like you said, knowledge, experience.
Exactly. And the dangers of overindulging, right?
Yeah.
Consuming more than we need.
Which is, let's face it, a pretty relevant theme these days, right? Climate change, resource depletion, all that. Like, we're all on this giant raft trying to figure out how to live sustainably.
Whoa, that's a great connection.
Yeah.
It's like Verne was ahead of his time, warning us about the dangers of our own appetites.
Yeah.
But he also offers a glimmer of hope, don't you think? Like maybe there's a way to find that balance, to satisfy our hunger without devouring everything in sight.
Totally. It's about finding that equilibrium, right, between our needs and the needs of the world around us. And that reminds me, this whole idea of balance ties into another cool thing Serres talks about, the game.
The game. Sounds kind of ominous, like we're all stuck in some cosmic game show or something.
Not quite. But think about it. Our lives are shaped by forces we can't control, right? Chance, fate. It's like we're all players in this grand game, making our moves, but never fully in control of the outcome.
Okay, yeah, I see that. Like Verne's characters, right? They get thrown into these wild situations, shipwrecks, volcanic eruptions. They've got to play the hand they're dealt.
Exactly. They're constantly making choices, but often with limited information, facing these unpredictable challenges. It makes you wonder, how much free will do we really have?
Right. Like, are we really calling the shots, or are we just along for the ride? It's a humbling thought, but even within those constraints, Verne's characters, they find a way, don't they? They adapt, they innovate. There's this resilience there that's inspiring.
Absolutely. They never give up, and I think that's a powerful message for all of us. No matter how chaotic things get, we can still choose how we respond. We can still learn, grow, carve out our own path.
It's like that famous quote, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning to dance in the rain.
Love it. And it all comes back to how Serres views Verne's characters as these variables in a larger equation, each one shaped by their environment, their relationships, the hand they've been dealt.
So it's not just about individuals making choices in a vacuum. They're part of something bigger, something more complex.
Exactly. And the Chancellor, that's a perfect example. The characters, they're battling the sea, sure, but they're also dealing with these internal conflicts, these social hierarchies. Even on a sinking ship, those dynamics are still playing out.
And the way Verne writes about the sea, it's more than just a backdrop. It's like this powerful force, almost like fate itself. Unpredictable, unforgiving.
Absolutely. And that connects back to the Old Testament too, right? Think about Job or the Israelites wandering in the desert. They all faced these overwhelming forces that made them question everything.
It's amazing, isn't it? Verne's writing about submarines and hot air balloons, but he's also grappling with these age-old questions. Fate, free will, the meaning of life.
He's got it all. And that's what makes his work so timeless, so universal. He's not just entertaining us, he's making us think, making us feel.
Well said. I gotta say, Serres has given us a whole new perspective on Jules Verne. Who knew we'd be talking about the changed waters, the Old Testament, and mathematical variables all in one conversation about adventure novels?
Right. It's been a wild ride, but it just goes to show you there's always more to discover with Verne.
Absolutely. So, listeners, the next time you pick up a Jules Verne adventure, don't just skim the surface. Dive deep, explore those hidden depths, and who knows what treasures you might find.